Hot off the presses, that is right. Apple just announced their next event, their annual Worldwide Developers Conference, or WWDC, which is going to take place on June 5th. It's going to be a Monday, and then Apple is going to live stream this event. It's kind of going to be kind of a hybrid event again, where they're not inviting like all developers to this event. It's mostly going to be held online through sessions, but if you want to attend this event, and if you are a developer, you can actually request to apply to watch this event, and then I think they're probably going to have people watch this from outside like they did last year. So there's a chance if you're a developer that maybe you'll get invited to see this, but for all other developers, basically you are watching this online. And again, that keynote is going to be streamed probably at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 5th. Now, if you can't tell, I'm really excited because WWDC this year is kind of rumored to be a pretty big event from Apple, with the possibility that we may see Apple's AR/VR headset that they have been working on for a very, very long time now, and just a lot of other exciting things going into this event. So I kind of want to tell you in this video some things about WWDC that maybe you should know, and also some things we can assume now that Apple has kind of announced this event. And let's start with that first, because now that Apple has officially announced when WWDC is taking place, I think that there's probably not going to be any other event, right? It would be kind of weird if they announced an event and then like a week later, they're like, you know what, we're having another event in April. Why don't you show up to that? So no sort of spring event, right? As we're sitting here making this video, it's March 29th. Usually Apple will do like a spring event in March. They released some products earlier this year in January, which was pretty rare for them. So it looks like that January event kind of overtook the spring event, and we are not expecting any sort of spring event. I don't think they're going to announce like an April event. They did do that one year. So I'm saying no spring event. And I'm also guessing probably no like new product releases announced via a press release, unless, and this is a big unless they need a lot of stage time for a certain section at WWDC, which I guess is a possibility. But right now, just looking at what might be in the works based on like rumors and leaks, I'm not expecting any product announcements or refreshes announced through a newsroom release. I think they'll save a lot of that stuff for the June 5th event. So what can we expect at this June 5th WWDC event? Well, again, the most likely stuff that you can expect at this event every year like clockwork, like no surprises, is new software. I talked about this in a previous video where I said like we're not expecting, or we really don't know what is going to happen with these new software updates. Apple has kept a pretty tight lid on leaks this year regarding most of their software updates. However, I believe like last week, Mark Gurman, who is like an Apple reporter, did leak or reported on some leaks that iOS 17 was going to focus a lot on bug fixes, but, and this is a big but, Gurman basically said, you know what? Behind the scenes, that's what Apple was planning, but apparently during this development of iOS 17, I don't know if it went like really well, or, you know, maybe they just felt like they had to add more features to add to the hype of this release, but apparently they are now focusing on adding a lot more features to iOS 17, more than they were originally planning. And the interesting thing about the rumored features for iOS 17 is that Gurman says that Apple is planning on adding long requested iOS features. So we know with the iOS 16, with the 14 Pro and stuff like that, they added the frameworks for things like an always on display. And they've been adding like new features that I feel like maybe they've been bringing over from like the Android side of things. So I guess like if this is true, a lot of the requested features from iOS 17 are probably existing features on other phones, or again, just features that iPhone users have been requesting for a long time. So this is going to be actually, hopefully, I guess, an interesting release cycle for these new software updates. As far as other updates go, I'm really not sure what to expect, right? iPadOS 16 was supposed to kind of be a big release with Stage Manager, but I feel like that kind of fizzled out. Apple made like a lot of, they had to pull like certain parts of that software like very last minute. They had to like kind of release it in increments for Stage Manager throughout iPadOS 16's existence. And that whole multitasking system that was supposed to kind of revolutionize the iPad kind of didn't come into fruition. So maybe Apple has a lot more improvements and fixes for this year, but there's really nothing concrete in terms of leaks and rumors on that. watchOS 10, right? watchOS 9, obviously very mature at this point. I can't believe we're on the 10th version of watchOS, but yeah, I'm sure Apple will introduce a lot of fixes there as well, and hopefully some new features. And then macOS 14, macOS has been, I think, on a roll recently, like the whole Apple Silicon transition. macOS in general has just had some pretty nice releases recently, and I feel like for the most part, at least when I'm using macOS, it feels very stable, feels very good. But I would love to see them add more features that can take advantage of Apple Silicon. So again, there's not too much here rumored for software updates, but hopefully we see that stuff soon. What about new hardware? That's what I'm always more excited about, honestly, than software. I know like software is good and it's what we use all the time, but for me, I'm a hardware guy. I always get like distracted by the shiny new product. And there's potentially a lot for WWDC. Again, this is usually a software event, but based on Apple's like shipment of things and their delays, we're expecting some new hardware stuff. I think the most obvious one to that, and something they really do need to announce eventually, is a new Mac Pro. So we know that Apple has kind of put the Mac Studio on the back burner for now, and they're really focused on releasing this new Mac Pro, which in power, it sounds a little disappointing because it does just sound like a Mac Studio in a bigger desktop tower. Apparently, it's only going to use an M2 Ultra chip, and there's not going to be anything above the M2 Ultra chip in terms of performance. Now, for CPU performance, that's fine. Like the M1 Ultra, super fast CPU. The improvements they made to M2, adding some more cores with M2 Ultra, I'm sure the CPU performance on that is going to be like class leading. But GPU performance, it might be the downfall here. And I just don't know. I just don't know if Apple will be able to make a really compelling chip and a big desktop computer that has this unified graphic architecture that they use for their Apple Silicon chips, and if they can make something that can really just eat NVIDIA's lunch or AMD's lunch with their dedicated graphics cards. I'm not sure we're there yet, but I'm always hopeful for a surprise. Other things about the Mac Pro, though, I'm kind of disappointed with the leaks and rumors. I hope they just turn out not to be true. So currently they're saying it's going to be the same design as the Intel 2019 Mac Pro, which is fine to me, because I think that's a great design. I've seen those in stores. Looks fine. But the thing that upsets me is they're saying it's not going to be expandable. So not an expandable desktop tower. I feel like the Mac Studio is a better product. If they could have just taken the M2 Ultra, put that in a Mac Studio, I feel like that's the better product if there's no expandability for storage or memory or adding your own graphics card on a Mac Pro. If they're taking away all that customability and flexibility with that Mac Pro, and they're just giving you a big desktop tower for no other reason, I don't know. It's hard to get excited about that. It feels like a step backwards from the Mac Studio if there's not going to be any exclusive expandability in that tower. But hopefully that's wrong. Another hardware product I talked about, and I don't want to talk about it too much, is the 15-inch M2 MacBook Air. So last year at WWDC, I believe Apple also introduced the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air. So it looks like we're going to kind of go full circle here and get another MacBook Air introduction. And supposedly this is just going to be a bigger version of the 13-inch M2 Air, which I think is good, right? It's going to be probably a 15-inch MacBook that's below $1,500, which is a good price point. So if you want a bigger screen MacBook, you don't have to jump all the way up to a $2,500 16-inch MacBook Pro. Probably going to have better speakers, right? Because it has a bigger chassis. Going to have better battery life. Again, bigger chassis, put in more battery. And spec-wise, I think it's probably going to be the same as the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air. So probably the same LCD screen, no mini LED there. And then 60 hertz display, right? And then the M2 chip. So power-wise, I think that's fine. Like the M2 chip is very capable, very powerful. Like you can edit 4K video on that thing. You can edit photos, you can do development, you can do all that stuff with the regular M2 chip. So I don't think they need to bump that up. And then for the type of consumer it's targeting, if they can hit like a $1,400 price point with a 15-inch display, M2 MacBook Air, it's like a no-brainer purchase. I think they're going to sell a ton of that. It's going to be a very popular laptop. Okay, the big one, right? Look at this event invite. Look at it, just for a second. Look at that event invite. I am seeing, and maybe I'm reading too much into this because I'm all swept up in the leaks and rumors, but I'm seeing a headset there. I'm seeing an Apple augmented reality, or I guess an augmented / virtual reality headset. And the rumors on this thing have been like crazy. There's been so many leaks, supposedly even like hardware component leaks. We've seen code leaks referencing Reality OS. We have multiple reports that Apple has already demoed this headset to like the top executives at Apple, the shareholders, right? Like all this stuff. There is something here. And we've heard about this headset, the rumors of this headset, that Apple was working on one years and years and years back. And it seems like this might be the year where Apple is finally ready to jump into this new product category. Now, I don't want to bore you with all the details, right? It's not that far away, but it is supposed to be a very premium headset. So current rumors say $3,000. Maybe this is gonna be like the iPad, where I think like initially up to the release of that, there was like rumors like it's gonna be $1,000, and then Steve Jobs got on stage and went, "Yeah, it's not $1,000, it's $500." So maybe Apple leaked the price to kind of like when they do announce the price, like maybe they'll be like, it's not $3,000 like the rumors are saying, it's $1,500, and then everyone go, "Whoa, that's so cheap for a headset," even though $1,500 for a headset is still a lot of money. But yeah, we'll see. If it's $3,000, I feel like that is such a hard sell. But hey, they if this is like the next generation of computing, something that maybe won't overtake the iPhone, but maybe more in place overtake something like the Mac, $3,000 for a computer is not unheard of, right? That's below Mac Pro pricing. It's closer to Mac Studio pricing. And even if it's like expensive for the first few years, eventually, as the technology evolves, these prices will come down. There's a lot of rumors, like maybe it'll use like eye tracking. It'll have micro OLED displays, like 4K to 8K resolution or something like that per eye. It sounds pretty crazy. Supposedly one of the big features is that you'll be able to use it as like a Mac desktop, right? This is supposed to have like the M2 chip inside of it. It's going to be a pretty powerful device if it has the M2 chip inside of it. And supposedly you could like connect it to your Mac and then view like multiple monitors in like an augmented reality or maybe even like a virtual reality space. The interesting thing about this headset to me, though, is that it's not just going to focus on, VR or AR. It's going to be a mix of both. It's going to be like a hybrid headset. Apparently, it's going to be like a digital crown you could turn and then switch between AR and VR very easily. And then the other thing that's very interesting about this headset is it sounds very prototypey to me. And maybe it's not very Apple-like, but apparently like the headset has like a cable and the battery pack like goes in your pocket. That's weird. So it's kind of interesting though, because I feel like technology is at its most interesting during the early stages. And at this point, right? Like we all have a smartphone in our pocket. These are like, come on, at this point, these are almost like perfected devices. Yes, they can make improvements every year to them, but these are basically just, iterative updates. They're perfect almost at this point. With new technology like a headset, there's a lot of work to do. It's going to be like the early days of the Mac. It's going to be like the early days of the iPhone. The first iterations of these devices are not going to be perfect, and there's going to be, or if Apple wants to succeed at this, they're going to need to release a lot of updates for years to come and constantly improving this product. And that's exciting to me. Is this the next frontier? Is this the next computing evolution? Maybe. I think so. But maybe it isn't. And that's exciting to me. So, all right. But yeah, that's basically everything we'd expect for this June 5th WWDC event. Sorry if I was all scatterbrained and all over the place. I'm excited for the event. There's no script. Apple just announced this. I got to make a video. So yeah, if you like this video, don't forget to give me a like. If you want to see more from the channel, make sure you're subscribed. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Oh, and let me know in the comments below. What are you excited to see at Apple's June 5th event? And do you think we will actually see this augmented and virtual reality headset? Let me know, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, everyone.